I was born in Burnley, 25th of September 1969. My mother before me was a big Burnley supporter. She went to all the big games in the 60s, late 50s, and when I was basically old enough to go to a game, she took me to the match. I was 4 years old. Can't remember exactly the game itself, but at that time, in the B Hall end of Burnley, kids queued at a different point to the adults, but because I was so young, she didn't particularly want me to queue up with the kids. So I trundled into the adult queue with her, and by the time I got to the turnstile, my mother explained to the guy that she didn't particularly want me queuing up with the other kids. Is it okay if I come through this turnstile? For which apparently he said, well, if you can go under the turnstile, that's fine. And that's just what I did. Went under the turnstile. So the first time I went to Burnley, I went under it. These days, of course, I struggle to get through it. Well, actually, some really memorable games was junior season ticket holder. Not memorable because they were particularly great games, but I remember myself and my brother standing on the B-Hall end as maybe 10, 11-year-olds, and this particular December day it was absolutely freezing, and it was a game against Cardiff, and the game was dire, and we drew 0-0. And despite that, I came away and thought, just can't wait for the next game, it's going to be much better than that one. Well, we were playing Leyton Orient, who themselves weren't particularly playing for anything. They were a mid-table side at the time, but they were still a decent outfit, and they gave Burnley a good game, but thankfully we ended up winning 2-1, and a good friend of mine, Ian Britton, scored the winner for Burnley that day. The importance of that game was that if we didn't get a result that day, of course we fell out of the Football League. Now, on these days, if you fall into like the Conference, it's more or less a case of you can quite easily bounce back into the Football League, but in them days it wasn't that easy, and potentially Burnley was going out of business at that point. And so the result, we needed to win to stay in the league, and we did just that, and it was just an ecstatic moment. You know, we've had some ups and downs, and one particular down, which was in itself a fantastic game, particularly if you were a neutral, was the away fixture against Grimsby, where we scored 6 and still lost 7-6. So that was just an incredible game of football, very rarely repeated in these days.